We are Flint River Presbytery.
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 A multi-part video series by Presbyterians for Presbyterians. The vision of our executive presbyter, We Are Flint River Presbytery, introduces church members and church officers to the shared mission, organization, and resources of our presbytery right here in Southwest Georgia.
For those who went to Presbyterian meetings in many years past, they were not always the most congenial meetings. In fact, one of my commissioners, a commissioner from one of my churches, went to a Presbyterian meeting recently, and he said, "Are they all like that? I don't remember being like that." And he said, "Is that just something that y'all were being particularly nice to each other?" I said, "No, that is how Presbyterian meetings are handled. We try to be prepared up front so that everything flows smoothly, and if there is an issue that needs to have debate, we do it in a very collegial way." And I said, "No, this is how we do Presbyterian meetings."
Flint River functions more like a smaller country church where everybody knows each other. It's very collegial. So you go to a Presbyterian meeting and it's friends. And if you don't know people already, you become fast friends. So it really is about those relationships and yet really growing together. It's a good thing.
Presbyterian meeting to me brings out some of the best about Presbyterians. We're connectional, and you find out that the problems you have are not that dissimilar from the problems other churches have, or the challenges, and you find out opportunities are out there, and maybe even opportunities you want to collaborate on with another church. And so all of those things, I found them very encouraging. I made friends that extended beyond the presbytery itself.
I think a person who's never been to one would probably be surprised at how efficient they are. Because I think people, again, when you're coming from a large geographic area, nobody wants to hang around all day, you know. But I'm just amazed at the organization and the efficiency of them.
Just all together and inspirational, I think. Now, yes, you have to look at the business package, and yes, you should be prepared to make some vote or do some voting now and then, because there is the business piece of it, but it's always paired with worship and fellowship. And so all of those things together just make the experience very worthwhile.
And you don't really realize that just like you have the church and the session that takes care of that business, you have the presbytery and the presbytery meetings that has to maintain the business of keeping the presbytery together. Well, to me, when I go to the presbytery meeting, I learn a lot about some of the other churches by ways of other people or ministers or elders that have represented that'll stand up and quiz. Now, I have been to a few of them meetings that there was a preacher or two that kind of got out of line there, but I mean, that's any kind of meeting you go to. But I mean, the meetings keep me informed more so than trying to read emails or whatever. So I can pick up on a lot of stuff just listening, because even though what's in that agenda isn't necessarily what you hear at the meeting, because there's a lot of discussion.
We start off with the orientation, with letting folks know kind of what to expect. Our agenda is laid out in a very logical manner. Deb goes through connecting the dots, which is helpful, so that people know what to expect. And then we have wonderful moderators who are leading the commissioners through what's going to happen in the Presbyterian meeting. So everything is done intentionally, prayerfully, and with great preparation.
I mean, it's like a little miniature family reunion. in part, it's part a worship service. It's a chance to sing together in a room full of people, which I don't take those for granted as much post pandemic when we couldn't sing inside together. But it's also it's a chance to learn more about the other congregations in our midst, learn from each other, and to be a part of the next generation of pastors who are coming up. So we get to do a lot of that, and that's a really beautiful thing.
I don't know. I really like the Presbytery meetings. I know a lot of other big churches don't have stuff like that, but it's really awesome that everybody knows each other, and that like when we come and we're a huge group together, that we're able to vote on things without fighting or anything like that, and that I can like say hi to people that go to churches that stayed away from me.
I think first off it'd be very valuable going and learning how the process works on the Presbytery level and what role the Presbytery plays. It plays a bigger role in the life of a individual congregation than someone who's never attended a meeting might think. There's the connection between the Presbytery and the congregation is very obvious when you go to a meeting.
I have been surprised at how relaxed and almost playful some of the meetings and the participants have been, when it seems like such a serious, stuffy thing. I mean, you get this agenda and you get an outline, which personally I prefer, because I tend to be scatterbrained, so I like things to be organized, and I can see where we are and what we're doing and plan in advance. But it's not this big, scary, oh my goodness, it's a Presbytery meeting. It's, hey, I'm meeting with the folks from First Columbus, or First Americas, or a not First Church somewhere else in the Presbytery, and we are reconnecting as a group, as people, to remind ourselves of the humanity of being a part of this church. It's not just this church and that church. We're all connected with each other, and so getting together at these meetings, yes, it has its purpose, planning and doing all the boring stuff. But it also gives you a chance just to reconnect with your neighbors in the Presbytery.
It can bog down, and then it cannot. It has wonderful social experiences. It has beautiful worship, and then you participate in the matters that are really important.
They're fun. The value of going to a Presbytery meeting is meeting people from all over the Presbytery and getting to know that the problems that you may have are not unique to you. But the Presbytery meetings have been really informative. The worship services are usually very inspiring, very meaningful, and they're doing a very good job, I think, of keeping the business to a minimum, so that you're not drawn out in long, lengthy conversations. They do their homework ahead of time.
Well, it's mind-boggling if you don't prepare yourself in the process. You need to read that docket and know what's going to happen and how you feel about things, and research it and do what you need to come to your position, whatever it takes. Okay, but I think Deb has done a great job in recent history in streamlining that process and making it briefer, more productive in the process, and we do enjoy that fellowship and time together as a part of that, I think. And I think that's a big part of the Presbytery work, is interfacing with the other folks from the other churches. And in the way Presbytery is run now, it gives you more of an opportunity to do that. So that's good. I think we've made progress. It's good.
Again, the Presbytery meeting, when I take first-time elders, the response that I get back from them is, that was so much better than I thought it was going to be. So there's this feeling that it's going to be awful, that somehow it's just, it's like a committee meeting, but larger. And it's not that. What I would want somebody to know about the Presbytery is it can actually be fun. People have senses of humor at the Presbytery. We laugh a lot. The worship is phenomenal. That, I think, is something about Flint River that, to me, my experience of Flint River, that worship in Flint River stands apart from worship in any other presbytery I've been a part of.
Before every Presbytery meeting, Zoom meetings not quite so much, but before every, certainly in-person Presbytery meeting, I do an orientation for new commissioners. And I don't go through every item of the meeting, but I tell them what to expect, particularly about action items and how we handle parliamentary procedure. But one point I always try to make with whether they're new commissioners or they haven't been in a while, is you are not at a Rotary meeting. This is church. This is because we are a Presbytery meeting, a presbytery is church. A presbytery is us. A presbytery is not as somebody said to me one time, it's not the big P. It's you're a member. You're a member of Presbytery, but you're little P. You're not big P. And they were. That was a compliment. That was a compliment. But the Presbytery is all of us within the bounds of our geographical area. All of us that have chosen to come together as councils.
Well, it's interesting. I think the couple of times I've been to a Presbytery meeting, there were interesting circumstances around there. I think once we had tornadoes that just come through our community, and there was kind of a rallying cry that everybody felt like they were pulling closer together to support the needs of those churches that were affected. Then we had COVID happen, and that totally changed the dynamics of Presbytery meetings, virtual Presbytery meetings. I mean, how do you even conduct such a thing, And so, and then working with churches who were trying to navigate the technological divide and still have church during the pandemic when we couldn't meet in person,
And I will put a plug in too. I think the hybrid or the Zoom session Presbytery meetings were very beneficial too. And if you don't want to go somewhere in person, participate in one in Zoom, and you don't have to be the elder tact. A good way to sort of figure out what goes on at a Presbytery meeting is join one of the Zoom Presbytery meetings and see what happens and see what it's like.
Well, the belief is they're boring, and they're not boring. A perfect example is the one we just had in Americas. I wrote my friend who lived three blocks down the street, and I said, I know you can hear us singing, because between the organ, the piano, the leader, and all of us there singing at the top of our lungs, it was just joyful. And Presbytery meetings aren't boring. You learn a lot. You learn how things function. I always love to read the docket and the notes with it, just to see what every committee's doing, because I'm interested in that. I want to see what everyone's doing. You can always, as we said when I was teaching school, you steal ideas from each other. That's not borrowing, you just plain steal. And you use them, and you learn about what other churches are doing, how they're doing it. You may have the same or similar thing in your church, and you can leave there with some ideas. But again, we are connected. We're a church of connectivity, and that is very evident in a Presbyterian meeting. And I love just to go see the people, the clergy. It may be the only time I see them all year, especially since we've started back since COVID and in person. And it's just joyous to me to go see the people. And we're all Presbyterian.
No, it's been fun. It's been fun to travel to the Presbyterian meeting, to spend the night, sometimes, depending on where it is, the night before, and just have that family time that then connects to the Presbyterian meeting, which is an extended family time. And we always share fellowship and worship and a meal, and it really is a good time, I think. I think it's enjoyable.
I would say, though, that the one common denominator, though, is falls back on those relationships. You can tell that people involved in the Presbytery are friends first, and they carry with them what I think is the light of Christ in everything they say and do. Again, there's no condescension, there's no confrontation, and if there is, it's done with love, and it's not an in-your-face kind of thing. Even on the tough topics that have to be discussed, it comes from a place of love.
And I see the Presbyterian meetings more as an opportunity to gather the corporate body of Flint River in worship and fellowship. Much more it is that than a business meeting. There is some business that has to take place, but frankly, if it was just about business, we could just get on Zoom. We wouldn't need to meet in person. We meet in person because there's such a, it is some of the richest, those Presbytery, in-person Presbyterian meetings, those are some of the richest times of worship all year for me, because it's when you get, you're at a church and the church is full and there's people there from all over middle Georgia, and some of them, and some of them are new faces, and we're all elders, we're all pastors, so we're all really into it. And that worshiping with a bunch of people who take their faith seriously and really love the Lord and love one another is just a very, very rich experience, and it feeds the soul and leaves you very encouraged.